Okay, we're going to start part 2. This is the regular shit we plan to do. So the first shit was extra because it started early. No. See, Jesse, they did come on time pretty much. Okay. So now, for those who came on Jewish time, we'll start the main shir, which we expected would happen. Okay, don't look at the sheet yet. I asked not to look. Okay? I know it's impossible, but we'll try. I'm going to begin with the question again. And if someone asks you, okay, and we'll take a vote. Is Sefer Yehoshua a success or a failure? You understand? In the time of Yehoshua, which is conquering the land of Israel, that's the topic of the book, isn't it? If someone asks you what's the topic of Sefer Yehoshua, it's the conquest of the land. Would that be a good answer? No. If someone asks you, was the conquest of land successful, yes or no? And you can only vote like an election, yes or no? Yes. Okay? How many people would say yes?
Sefer Yehoshua,
huh?
yes.
Sefer, huh? And how many people would say no? No, wait a second. About half and half? No.
Definitely no.
What? Now, who said, I want someone who said no. Who said no? You said no? Okay. I want you to read for me. Actually, it's on the source sheet.
I got to read aloud.
Okay. Who else said no? You said no, okay? I want you to read for me in source B. I want you to read B1. We're playing bingo, okay? From Perek Yud Aleph Pasuk Chav Gimel, okay? You said it was not a success. I want you to read Perek Yud Aleph Pasuk Chav Gimel. Read? Vaikach? Yeah.
ויקח יהושע את כל הארץ ככל אשר דיבר אדוני למשה ויתנח יהושע לנחלה לישראל במחלקותם משבטיהם והארץ שחטאתם ממלחמה.
You want to vote again? What's it sound like?
Sounds like a success.
We took the whole land. And as long as you're reading, read Chav Aleph and Aleph. Vayten?
ויתן אדוני לישראל את כל הארץ אשר נשבע לתת לאבותם וירשוה וישבו בה. וינח אדוני להם מסביב ככל אשר נשבע לאבותם ולא עמד איש בפניהם.
לפניהם.
לפניהם.
No. Why did I make that joke? That's exactly why we have that in Megillat Esther. Remember when Chazal say Kimu B'Kiblu, at the time of Megillat Esther, they're onto something big. Because what's happening, the Sefer Yehoshua should happen again in the beginning of Beit Sheni. But instead, they could have come back and they stayed in Paras. That's a whole deep thing. That's all we do a shir on that one time. But when Chazal say Kimu B'Kiblu and Beit Sheni, they're assuming you know Yehoshua Chav Dalet. Forget that. We'll go back to our topic. It's a little word of Zionism. Okay. Lo nafal. Akoba. Okay. How could anyone say it's not a success? Because who says it's a success? The book of Yehoshua. Right? Jesse noted, not if you read Sefer Shoftim, because how does Sefer Shoftim begin? Lo horishu, lo horishu, lo horishu. Like, except for Yehuda, and most of Ephraim and Menachem, but 7 Shvatim did nothing. Not only that, not only in Sefer Shoftim does it say it wasn't a success, even in Sefer Yehoshua it says so.
Yeah, he says it to them.
Yehoshua tells them, look in Perek Yud Gimel Pasuk Aleph. Okay, you want to read, Rabbi Mizrahi?
ויהושע זקן בא בימים, ויאמר אדוני אליו, אתה זקנת באת בימים, והארץ נשארה הרבה מאוד לרשתה.
So who claims it's not a success? Not only Yehoshua.
God.
He's a poistek, isn't he? I mean, lo vashamayim, but we can at least consider his opinion. Yeah. Okay? And the Zotar is Hanisheret, got it? Okay. And then in Perek Yud Chet, read Pasuk Bet.
ויוותרו הישראל אשר לא חלקו את נחלתם 7 שבטים.
ויאמר
יהושע בן ישראל עד אנה אתם מתרפים לבוא לרשת.
Got it? So even in Sefer Yehoshua we see the conquest isn't complete. We'll bring another proof. At the end of his life he says so. So make up your mind. Was the conquest complete or not? The contradiction is so obvious. Guess what they'll teach you in college? When you go to academic study of Yehoshua. There's no other possible explanation. I'm not saying that, don't worry. But why do they say that? Because they read the book like they teach in yeshiva. Unfortunately. Because they read it like a history book. How do we solve the problem? We don't read the whole book. We just read the first couple chapters. Haftarah there. Okay? But the assumption is, why don't we read it? Because it's a book about how we conquered the land. Okay? That's not why we have Sifrei Nevuah. The job of the Navi is not to teach you history. The job of the Navi is to understand your relationship with God. And if you studied Sefer Devarim, you remember Shirat Hazinu, And what's Shir Tazinu tell you? When something goes wrong, who don't you blame? Don't blame God. When something goes wrong, who's to blame?
You.
Hello? Hello who? Okay. Sorry. Before then. Before it's Zechriot Olam. Right? If you're foolish, you think there's no reason. Therefore, the job of the Navi is to explain to the people, don't blame God, blame yourselves. And therefore, why do we need Sefer Yehoshua? Because the conquest was not complete. What are the people doing? Who are they blaming? And why should the people be blaming God for the lack of conquest? Because what did God promise? Didn't God promise us the land of Israel? If you read Chumash, that's what it sounds like. Everywhere you turn, I'm promising the land of Israel. That's the opening lines of the book, it sounds like. And if God promised to give us the land of Israel, and we don't get the land of Israel, who's to blame? God. Isn't that how we grow up? Something goes wrong, blame it on somebody else. Especially if you can blame it on God. I mean, that's the first thing. That's the first thing Adam Harishon does, doesn't he? It's not my fault. You gave me that. No, it's you gave me that. Haishasha natatali. What's that? That's the beginning of mankind. It hasn't. It's in our DNA. Yeah, blaming God and blaming. It's called the what's it called? I'm the victim. Yeah. As opposed to, in general, it's almost a machala. When something goes wrong, right? It's always, and then you become. If you look at modern Jewish history, we suffered through the Holocaust. We through our history. Instead of harping on that, we build a new state. Right? You take, okay, what happened. Let's start something new. Forget the past and let's build something future. As opposed to, we were wronged and we're gonna undo the Palestinian conflict. You follow? So even if they're right that they were wronged, right? I'm not taking sides, but get over it and do something good. Don't spend your whole life harping on the past and getting anger. Right? Do something positive. Right? Make the best out of a given situation. Don't harp on the past all the time. Look forward. Anyway, back to our topic. So my point is, why is Yehoshua writing the book? He has to explain to the people, don't blame God for your failure, rather, blame yourselves. And you know what? God fulfilled everything He promised. I'll repeat that because that's the main point of this year. The goal of the book is exactly what line? Yehoshua as a Navi is coming. If the people are complaining about God, how can God defend Himself? Does God have a spokesperson? What's the job? What do we call God's spokesperson? That's exactly what a Navi means. And therefore, when people need guidance from God or have a complaint about God, who do they go to? Navi. That's what. And what's the Navi's job to do? To be a Navi, to be God's spokesperson. And therefore, Yeshua's job is to explain to the people, don't blame God, blame yourselves. And that's why he writes Sefer Yehoshua. And that changes the way you read the book. Understand my point? When I'm reading Sefer Yehoshua, I'm reading a book that's coming to explain not how we conquered the land, but rather how God kept His promise. And once you understand that, all the contradictions fall apart. And all you have to do is read the opening line, because what's the opening line of Sefer Yehoshua? Now look at source 3. So first of all, God promising the land. That's Sefer Breshit, right? Okay. But what's the conditional promise? If you have Tanachim, I want you to look in Perek Yud Aleph and Sefer Devarim. It's not on the source sheet, probably. Not. Look at Sefer Devarim, Perek, who's got a Tanakh open? Okay. In Perek Yud Aleph, Sefer Devarim, it's easy because it's right after Vayem Shemoah. Remember, L'man Yibui Mechem Menachem Al Adama? If you want to stay in the land, keep the mitzvot. If you don't keep the mitzvot, what do we mumble and davening every day? Yisham Lechem Pen Yiftal Avavchem V'avaretem Meherach. We're supposed to say it quietly. Right? You guys whisper it. V'avaretem Meherach means you'll lose the land because the land doesn't belong to you. The land belongs to God. And you have it on the condition you keep His mitzvot properly. And you might lose the land. Now, right after that, read Yud Aleph, have it, Kvod Achsanya. Okay? You know Kvod Achsanya? Yud Aleph Chabet. Devarim. Ki.
כי אם שמור תשמרון את כל המצווה הזאת, אשר אנוכי מצווה אתכם לעשותה, לאהבה את אדוני אלוהיכם, ללכת בכל דרכיו ולדבקה בו.
That's a summary of the whole mitzvah section. It began with Shema. If you have the right attitude and accept keeping God's mitzvot, which was the whole topic from Shema to Vayim Shema, of all Etchen HaNekev, then
והוריש אדוני את כל הגויים האלה מלפניכם, וירישתם גויים גדולים ועצומים מכם.
What's God promising? God's going to help us conquer the land on what condition? That we keep His mitzvot. In other words, God is saying, I'm going to conquer it for you, I'm going to conquer it with you. And on what condition? Do you keep the mitzvot? Because what's the point in giving the land if you're not going to keep the mitzvot? And now there's another condition. Listen carefully. Yeah, what's that mean? Wherever you go with your feet will be yours. What's that implying? You have to go. It means God won't do it for you, He'll do it with you. I'm giving you, like, I'm putting you through college. A parent says to a child, what's that mean? When a parent puts a child through college, what's it mean? I'll pay your tuition, I'll oversee, I'll help you out, whatever you need, but I'm not going to take the courses for you. Therefore, when God says I'm going to conquer the land for you, it means with you. It means I'll help you conquer the land, but you got to do something. It's not like coming out of Egypt the first time around. You were little babies then. You were like, remember? I took care of you. You were helpless then. Now you have your own army. You can do things. You're matured already. I'll be there to help you, but you have to do it yourself. Therefore, wherever you go, I'll be there to help you. Understand? Okay. And then we give the borders. Skip down to Pasuk Chaf Hey. What's that mean? When you fight, no one will get in your way. But what do you have to do first? You have to fight. Okay? Continue. Got it? Now, before you forget all that, now read the first lines of Sefer Yehoshua, which is copy-paste. Yehoshua Perak Aleph, start from Pasuk Vet. The opening lines of Sefer Yehoshua.
משה עבדי מת ואתה קום עבור את הירדן הזה אתה וכל העם הזה אל הארץ אשר אנוכי נותן להם לבני ישראל. כל מקום אשר תדרוך כף רגליכם בוא לכם נתתי כאשר דיברתי אל משה.
Perfect. Once you כאשר דיברתי אל משה, what's that referring to? He's not quoting Sefer Bereshit. He's quoting Sefer Devarim. When God told Moshe Rabbeinu, on what condition do you get the land? You have to keep my mitzvot, and wherever you go, I'll be there with you. Continue.
מהמדבר והלבנון הזה ועד הנהר הגדול נהר פרת כל ארץ החיתים ועד הים הגדול מבוא השמש יהיה גבולכם לא יתייסב איש לפניך
again, לא יתייסב איש לפניך
כל ימי חייך כאשר הייתי עם משה אהיה עמך לא ארפך ולא אעזבך.
So what condition is that? Wherever you go, I'll be there for you. No one will get in your way if you attack, and I'll do it with you, not for you. What condition is missing? Keeping the mitzvot. But keep reading.
חזק ואמץ כי אתה תנחיל את העם הזה את הארץ אשר נשבעתי לאבותם לתת להם.
Do you have to read it the right way? חזק ואמץ כי אתה תנחיל. You're going to do it. Understand? Mm-hmm. I'm going to help you, but you have to do it. And that's why Yehoshua needs chazak ve'amatz. Yeah. I'll give you an example from Rabbi Mital always said about yeshiva. He says, he gave an analogy, studying in yeshiva. He says, some people look at studying yeshiva like riding on a train. That you buy a ticket, you sit on the train, and you get to your destination. So what do you have to do? Pay tuition. Take a seat, and you'll get there. He says, yeshiva is like climbing a mountain. That you take every step yourself. So don't think that you come in, that all you have to do is come in, and everything will be automatic. Right? Finding God, it's like climbing a mountain. You have to take every step yourself. There'll be someone to guide you. Like if you slip, someone will maybe help you up. There'll be a path to follow. But you have to take the steps yourself. Yeah.
So in Shoftim Perek Gimel, it says, "Ve'el ha'grim asher hiniach Adonai l'nasot ba'am Israel." Seems to be saying that God intentionally left some goyim for them to be tested.
But keep why? To make sure.
It's kol asher lo yadu et kol mechamot Canaan. Rak leman dat zorot bnei Israel lamedam milchama. Rak asher lefanim lo yadau. So it seems intentional that they did not conquer everything in Sefer Yehoshua. Intentional by God.
No, and that's a pasuk in hindsight already. That's like this is what you say. I joke. This is what you say to bris, what you say at a funeral. You understand what I meant? Once things go bad, right? You can find good in what went bad. You understand? No, it's a good thing you didn't get into that school because you would have had bad friends. It's good. It's good. Do you understand what I mean? Sometimes when something goes wrong, there's something good about what goes wrong, which is life. And which is a great attitude to life. Don't look at the downside, look at the upside. But it wasn't the chatchila supposed to be that bad. But once it's bad already, so now God needs to keep us in check. We'll see how it'll fit in a minute to what Yehoshua says in his final speech. Now, let's go back now to, so you understand what we did? I showed you how the opening line of Sefer Devarim is saying, here's what God promised. Now comes the key point. Right. What's going to follow? Yeah? What? Oh yeah, Rak Chazak Be'ematz. Yeah.
Rak Chazak Be'ematz me'od l'shmor la'asot k'chol ha'torah asher tzivecha Moshe avdi al tasu mimenu yamin u'shmol leman taskel b'chol asher telech.
Now listen carefully and highlight the right word.
Lo yamush sefer ha'torah hazeh mipicha v'hagita bo yoma v'leila leman tishmor la'asot k'chol ha'katuv bo ki az tatzliach.
Perfect. Ki az tatzliach. V'az taskel. Got it? That's the second condition. Now, what's going to follow now in Sefer Yehoshua? We're going to talk about how God helped us every time we took initiative. Every time we did something, God was there to help us. But what do we have to do first? What's the first initiative that Yehoshua took? No. Sending spies. That's a good act. Because you're doing it in natural ways. That's what armies do. He's planning to attack the city. It's not the same spies as like Moshe said. That's a fact-finding mission. Here, these are military spies sent by the army. Yeshua is planning to take the city through natural means. What's God going to do? He's going to help him by doing a miracle and taking down the walled city. Because Yeshua has two military problems. One is how to take a walled city without casualties. Because if you have enough soldiers, remember Normandy or D-Day? If you have enough soldiers, you can take a walled city. But what's that mean? People die. And therefore, when we send them Raglim, when they know God wants them to conquer the land of Israel, but the people, hey, there's walled cities, so what's God want us to do? Commit suicide. He said, we're no dummies, we're going back to Egypt. Isn't that exactly what the Raglim say? They say it's a death trap, God wants us dead. And the Amorites are going to do the dirty work. Because they definitely don't want to keep the mitzvot. That explains, that's the background of the Chetam Raglim. So now what Yehoshua is telling the people, I said, God will be there to help you. And now the book is going to tell you, God kept his promise. What was God's promise? I'll help you if you help yourself. And therefore, what does God do for them? Splitting the Jordan River. That was a miracle that wasn't, not to get to the other side. You don't need a miracle to cross the Jordan. Because the Menachem crossed it with no problem. If you've ever been there, you can jump across it even nowadays. So back then maybe it was more water. But it's not that hard to cross the Jordan. People have done it without miracles. But the Sefer Yehoshua says, I need the miracle to put faith in the people. To make Yehoshua look good. To scare the other enemies. There's a lot of advantages to crossing the Jordan. Now, the next thing Yehoshua does, he plans the battle against Yericho. What does God do for us? He sends a malach to Yehoshua and Parakeh and says, don't worry, I have a plan to take down the wall. Because how do you take a walled city? Once you have a breach in the wall, it's easy. But getting the breach in the wall is the problem. Because that takes all the chaos. Once the city's open and have a breach in the wall, then we have them outnumbered. And therefore, the main miracle God does, he puts a wall, breach in the wall. That's why it's not all the walls came tumbling down. That wouldn't do us any good. We want a piece of the wall to come down, and then you're in the city, and then we have them outnumbered.
Obviously the house was still standing.
What?
Obviously the house wall was still standing.
Yeah, that's right. Rachav's house for sure was still around. But I just need one place. In fact, what was their plan? They were going to enter through Rachav's house. That's why I needed the sign there. It's like the Trojan horse. I need to get troops into the city. So the trick was, we have a collaborator inside the city. Now, what's really cool, Rachav, Rachav's like quoted a lot. You mentioned Rav Sandler talking about Rachav being the most quoted. She comes up a lot in the parak. Rachav's reaction, what's happening, is pretty much the goal of the Torah. That Rachav's saying, we heard about God, how great he is, and we know he's with you. So only one person gets the right conclusion, but at least someone did. And she becomes sort of the paradigm that we quote her in Aleinu, don't we? She's quoting Sefer Devarim. That's what we quote in Aleinu. That's why Chazal say that Yehoshua married Rachav. Now, back to, she made great challahs. That's what they brought back. They brought back the base, yeah. She was a bakery.
Sure.
Now, back to, so what happens next? So we conquer Yericho. Then we go to conquer the eye, and what happens? God didn't help us. We lost the battle. Who are we going to blame? Right? God's not helping us. That's what Yehoshua says. So what's going to be? They're going to hear, whoa. And what's God say?
Get up.
It's your fault. Chatan Yisrael. Therefore, solve your problem. It's not, I can't help you. I didn't help you because you're not on my side, because you weren't keeping my laws. Get your troublemakers out of there. And therefore, Achan is punished. And then God helps him with some military strategy, how to take it the right way. And we have the battle of the eye. And now, then we have the war of the 4 kings and 5 kings. I mean, not 4 kings, that's Sefer Bereshit. The 5 kings, just the plain 5 kings. With the story of the Givonim. And just a little side point, what's really cool about the Givonim. Yeshua's biggest problem is, there's twofold. One is all the nations joining up against him at once. And that's solved by the miracle of the Jordan River. But the biggest problem is taking walled cities. What do you want to do? You want to get people out of the walled cities. Because once the army's out of the walled city, you can take them. How does he conquer the eye? So by losing the first battle, we win the second battle, don't we? The first battle we lose, don't we? Because we lose, we retreat, and they chase us out. The second battle, we pretend to make the exact same mistake. We attack the city, they come to meet us, we start running away, and they start attacking us. But Yehoshua left an ambush in the hill. He gives a sign to the ambush, and the ambush comes when the main army is outside the walled city. And then the ambush comes in and takes over the city, because now it's emptied out. Got it? So it's thanks to the first, we take, remember the recovery? We take advantage of our failure, and we use that. That's in military strategy. You take your weakness and make it your strength. That's when you go to military school. Not that I'm a general, but that's what they say. Now, then we make that strange treaty with the Givonim, but without realizing it, it's almost like it came out for our good. Why? The Givonim made a treaty with us. Because of that, everyone gets angry at the Givonim. And now 5 kings joined up against the Givonim. Correct? Now, no one expects Yehoshua to come and help them. They're going. Right? So he made a treaty, he had to. And the 5 kings against the Givonim should be a piece of cake for them. But when the 5 kings come to attack the Givonim, what happens? Yehoshua has a great opportunity. 5 kings outside the walled cities with their armies, not expecting Yehoshua to attack. What does Yehoshua do? He takes initiative now. He walks up all night long, attacks the 5 kings by total surprise. What does he gain? 5 cities with their armies outside the walled cities in the open field. Now it's a piece. Now we can defeat them with no problem. But what's he need? He needs time, because it's getting late. And therefore, what's he ask God to do for them? And what does God do? God helps them help themselves. You follow? God doesn't defeat the enemies for them. He gives artillery support, and he gives what do you call those? Flares. He gives them flares and artillery. Remember Avnei Gabish? He gives tactical support, what they call in the army. But the fighting is done by the soldiers. So what's God doing again? We took initiative, and God helped us. And then, but you see, if it wasn't for the treaty with the Givonim, it wouldn't have happened. Now, once we defeated the 5 kings, do we go and finish up? Other people come to help them, and they're outside the walled cities, and we take the whole southern area. Now that we took the southern area, the northern kings get all together, all join up together. Oh, this is getting dangerous. We join together and attack them. But now it's not all the nations, only some of the nations. And now that they're gathering together up north to attack Yehoshua gets hold of what's happening. Maybe God gave him good, intelligence what's happening. And Yehoshua brings his army and attacks them by surprise at their camp where they're gathering. Again, what do we have? All their armies outside the walled city. So, in a backhanded way, we end up taking all the walled cities without having to take a walled city, which was our biggest problem. All thanks to, if it wasn't for that treaty with the Givonim, which we made by mistake, that wouldn't have happened. And it's really cool because the treaty with the Givonim, why did we buy into it so fast? Because they say, hey, it's great. What did the people come and say? We heard about your God, about how great he is. We want to make a treaty with you. Yes, they were lying, but had they been telling the truth, that was the goal of becoming God's nation. Wasn't it? So other nations should look up to you and find God. And that's what was happening. So in all the stories, there's really deep themes that are underneath it, which are playing out. But then back to our topic. So what was God doing in the first 11 chapters? He was helping us whenever we took initiative and we were following God. When didn't he help us? When we didn't take initiative. Got it? So now, let's read again. That's the first 11 chapters. We took what we took. Got it? And look how the Navi summarizes it. We're now in, go back in source B, to Pasuk Yud Aleph Chaf Gimel. That's the end of the battle section. Remember, go back to part A. In part A, that's the outline of the book, which is simple. The first 5 chapters is preparing for conquest, all the parallels to Yetziat Mitzrayim. That's a separate share. Chapter 6 through 12 is conquering the land. And notice the last chapter 12, is the kings, but the kings are written like Shirat Hazinu, aren't they? I didn't do that in the Devarim share, but I should have. The Shirat Hazinu, the kings, remember the 31 kings? They're written just like Shirat Hazinu, which is alluding to Shirat Hazinu, isn't it? Because even though we conquered them, we didn't finish the job. Remember, don't blame God. Remember, my point is, Yehoshua is writing the book in light of the theme of Hasidut, don't blame God when things go wrong. So we're alluding to the theme of Shirat Hasidut and the way we list of what we conquered, the things we conquered, even though we really didn't conquer as much as we could have. Now, then we have the Nachalah section from chapter 13 to 22, and then the final speeches in 23 and 24. 24 was the last speech thematically, Nasa V'Nishma, but 23 we'll see is the last speech chronologically. And I'll prove my book, and we have 10 minutes to go. Now, what's Yehoshua say? Look, I'm going to read now like a lawyer. The end of the battle section. How did you understand that pasuk the first time we read it? What's Kachol Asher Diber Hashem Moshe describing? What word in the first phrase is it describing? The Aretz. What land did Yehoshua conquer? All the land that God told Moshe, which is from where? Right? From that all the way to the whole land of Canaan. Right. That's one way to read it. But it could be Kachol Asher Diber Hashem Moshe is not describing the land, but rather the Vayikach. How did Yehoshua take the land? Just like God had said to Moshe Rabbeinu, referring to what? The psukim that Stephanie read from Sefer Dvarim, which is the opening line of the book. How did Yehoshua take the land? Just like God said, wherever you go, I'll be there to help you. Right? And if you keep my mitzvot. So it's just like God promised that I'll be there to help you, that's how Yehoshua took the land. And then Yehoshua gave it for Nachalat Yisrael, and the land, and the land was quiet now for more. So it's not saying he took the entire land that God promised Moshe Rabbeinu, the borders of the land. It's not about how we took the land. And therefore that phrase is modifying by Yikach and not Haaretz. As a lawyer, we solved that problem, didn't we? It's not just, I'm not fetching like a lawyer, I think that's part of the pasuk. In its context in the book. And that's why the book begins with what did God promise. Okay. Now, and that the phrase Kachol Asher Diber Hashem Moshe was beforehand. Now, then look at Chaf Aleph Mem Aleph now. Vayitein Hashem Yisod Kol Haaretz Asher Nishba Letet Lavotam Yoshuv Yeshvu Ba V'enach Hashem Misaviv Kol Asher Nishba Lehem Lo Mad Ish B'Fneihem B'Kol Vehem Et Kol Vehem Et Natan Hashem Lo Nafal Davar Kol Dav Asher Diber Hashem Kol Ba. What's it mean? Lo Mad Ish B'Fneihem. What's that mean? When we went to battle, what happened?
We weren't challenged.
No one were challenged. Lo Yitaseh Ish B'Fneichem. So what did God fulfill? His promise. What did God promise? Wherever you go, I'll be there to help you. And what happened in the book? Wherever we went, God helped us. What didn't happen? Wherever we didn't go, God didn't help us because we didn't do anything. Now, that phrase, Lo Nafal Davar, B'Kol Davar, I want to prove to you that's the theme of the book. Because in the last chronological parak of the book, Parak Chav Gimel, is when Yehoshua explains why he wrote the book. Okay? Again, no one ever gets to Parak Chav Gimel. And now we'll learn Parak Chav, like we did Parak Chav Daled, Parak Chav Gimel. Now the back page. This is Yeshua's last speech, and my point is as follows. The last speech, chronologically though, I'll prove to you in a minute this is his last speech. He says so. This is right before his death. Is going to be the reason for the book. And everything I told you is here in the speech. Okay? Perach Gimel. Vayim yamim barabim, achrei asher yideach Hashem l'yisrael mikol ve'em misaviv, Yeshua zaken ba b'yamim. He's old, right? And after the first wave of conquest is over. Vayikra Yeshua l'cho Yisrael l'zichan v'shotrav, v'yimar lehem, ani zakanti batei b'yamim. Classic line. Remember, he's getting old. It's clear that Yeshua is about to die. He'll say so explicitly in a minute. He says, "V'atem ritem et kol asher asa Hashem alechem l'chol goyim ha'elim mitnechem, ki Hashem alechem hu anucham lechem." You saw what happened to all the nations, because who helped us fight? God. Now, he's not saying God did the fighting. He's saying God helped you fight. That's a challenge in the land of Israel. You do things on your own, and you attribute it to God. Like, we make bread, don't we? And what bracha do we make? Hamotzim. God, that's not true. We did all the work, but God made the system. And therefore, when we say Hamotzim, we're saying even though we did all the work, we went to the bakery. That's it. No. But we're recognizing that even though we do all the work, we attribute the whole system to God. Now, because I can say, hey, I cooked it, I made it, it's mine. Remember, that's Chava, that was her mistake when she gave birth to Cain. Hey, I made that baby. What'd she say? God did 10%, I did 90%. Okay? It's my baby, I made it. And that's kinyan. What's kinyan mean? You own something because you made it. By the time she gets to her third kid, Sheit. Why is he called Sheit? She learned her lesson. Ki shat li Elohim zeracher tachat Kain. Now, who gave me this kid? God. Now, God's 90%, I'm 10%. I just carried the baby, and God. The question is, how much credit do you give to God, how much to yourself? So, the first one is, I'm 90, God's 10. And the last one is, God's 90 and I'm 10. Now back to, and mankind continues from Shet, remember a notion that becomes Besarai. Now back to, until the flood, and then we go from Shem, and then from Bnei Noach. Now back to our Psukim. Okay. Now, so remember God did that for you. He's saying two things. We conquered the land, but there's a lot of land left. That's exactly the contradiction we saw before. What's he telling them? There's a lot of land left. Who's going to do it for you?
Sure.
But he'll do it with you, just like before. He's ending the book the way it started. Now, why are the people worried? Because what did God tell Yehoshua in the beginning? Right? He says, Ko yimei chayecha. I'll be with you. The question is there a time limit in God's help? Is God saying, I'm giving you one opportunity to get started and then you're on your own? Or God will always help us? So Yehoshua is telling the people, don't think that now that I'm dying, God won't help you anymore. God can still help you, but you have to take initiative. But what did I do? I set aside the land for you. God won't do it for you, he'll do it with you. Okay. Then v'chazaktem od lishmor lasot kol hakutub b'sefer Torah Moshe v'yosha bet Menachem goyim gdolim v'atzumim lo amar ish b'pnechem ad yom hazeh. On what condition? You follow Torah Moshe. Ish echad b'chem yadav elef, etc. V'nishmartem od nafshotechem lavat Hashem alechem. Okay. Pasuk Yud Kim shov teshuvun v'dvartem b'yetar goyim e'elav v'nishram e'elav b'tchem v'ishtachvitem v'vatem l'bachem Yodoa tedu ki lo yosif Hashem alechem lo risha tegoyim e'elav b'tchem Then he goes back to what we saw in the end of Sefer Bamidbar. On what condition will God help you? Do. You have to take initiative, and B, keep his mitzvot. The same thing that God told Yehoshua in the beginning of the book, which God told Moshe at the end of Dvarim, which Sefer Yehoshua repeats in the beginning, Yehoshua is telling the people at the end of his life. It means the promise is still there, but there's still an opportunity to finish the conquest of the land. Every Shevet has to do their own thing. Now, the existential threat of all the nations gathering is gone, because we defeated the armies, but settling the land and conquering everything left over, that you have to take the initiative, and therefore God will continue to be with you, you just have to get to work on it. Therefore he tells them, all the rest of the hours, how come you're so lazy? Take initiative. Now we get to this concluding statement, and that's I highlighted, Pasuk Yadalid, and we're going to conclude with this. What's that mean? Pasuk Yadalid? Everyone have it at the bottom? That's clear now, this is his last speech. You understand why I'm saying this is the last speech chronologically? I'm pointing that out for those in the first year. It's clear now that Perach Abdallah happened earlier. Because this has to be his last speech. But now Perach Abdallah, therefore, is the epilogue to the book, happening earlier. Okay. He says, but after they did a major part of the conquest, but not the total, but it's not the last story in the book. Okay. What nusach is that? What's he plagiarizing from? From Sefer, not just Shema, but all Sefer Dvarim. Okay. Kilon nafal davar echad mikol advarim hatovim asher diber Hashem alechem alechem hakol ba'al lechem lo nafal mimenu davar echad. How come he's being so repetitive? But what's he repeating over and over again? Look again. What do you need to know and understand? Kilon nafal davar echad mikol advarim hatovim asher diber Hashem alechem hakol ba'al lechem lo nafal mimenu davar echad. That's the whole point of the book, isn't it? Isn't it? That was one point made in the beginning. Once you read that, you understand what the book is about. And now we have no problem with there's no contradictions in the book anymore. If the book is the history of what happened, yeah, I've got problems. If it's the history of how God kept his promise, then the contradictions make sense. Because when did God keep his promise? When we kept our side. And what didn't we do? And therefore all the Psukim talk about how complete the conquest was is referring to how complete God's promises were. And the Psukim talking about how incomplete it was in the beginning of Sefer Shoftim, for example, and within Yehoshua, it's because of what we didn't do. And that's exactly what the Malach from the Bochim tells the people. You guys are, and that's why they cried, you're right. Now, this again is based on Shirat Hazinu, where Shirat Hazinu says, don't blame God when something goes wrong, blame yourselves. And therefore, in this speech, I think it's clear to me now, I think it should be clear to the reader, that's the goal of the book. And because the book was written for this speech, and to prove Lo Nafal Davar, what's Yehoshua give out at the ceremony? He'll sign the copies. Sefer Yehoshua is written for this event. It's not written play by play as the book goes on. If you understand the historical setting of Sefer Yehoshua, read Sefer Yehoshua as being presented to the people at this point in Jewish history, at the end of his life, as God's spokesperson. And at the end of his life, he's saying, don't blame God for what went wrong, blame yourselves, and therefore learn from your mistakes and continue the job. Okay. Then, Pasuk Tetva, Vaya. Kashir ba lechem kol davar hatov, asher diber Hashem lechem alechem, ken yavi Hashem lechem et kol davar hara, ad hashmido etchem me'al adama tova azot, asher natan lechem Hashem Elohekechem. What do you need to know? It's not, don't think God promised you the land. You're responsible. God can help you, and He will help you, on the condition you follow His mitzvot. But don't think the land belongs to you. And that's exactly the first Rashi in Chumash, isn't it? It's terribly misunderstood, the first Rashi. Chumash begins with Breshit, not to teach you the land of Israel belongs to us. Read carefully. Rashi says, it begins with Sefer Breshit, so we know the land of Israel belongs to God. And who does God give it to? Vasher Yashar B'nai, which is a pasuk in Yirmiyahu, when God gives it, takes it from us and gives it to Nebuchadnezzar. People don't realize that. The pasuk that he quotes from Yirmiyahu Perek Chav Zayin, he says, Kol haaretz natan li Hashem Elokei hashamayim, hu pakad alai, I'm sorry, he says, God gave it, Lasher Yashar Beinav. And now he says, now I'm giving the land to Nebuchadnezzar my Avdi because you didn't keep my mitzvot. Which is, when you understand what pasuk he's bringing, you understand what Rashi is saying. He's saying, I need Sefer Breshit to know the land of Israel doesn't belong to us, it belongs to God. And why is He giving to us? To be His people. If we don't keep His people, it doesn't belong to us, it belongs to God. We have a responsibility to the land, but we don't have ownership. That's why, if God owns the land, once we conquer it, who do we pay taxes to? To God. That's called Trumot. Remember? When we give Trumot to God, we're paying taxes because we recognize He's sovereign. Therefore, when do we chayiv Trumah D'Oraita? Only after Yerusha. When there's no Yerusha, when there's no sovereignty, when there's no military conquest, we're not chayiv D'Oraita in Trumot. That's the Rambam in the beginning of Trumot. Therefore, the borders of Israel, or whatever, kosher kavash, Yerusha, the chiyuv D'Oraita of Trumot Masrot is when we're sovereign. And by giving Trumah to God, you're basically saying, God's sovereign, and you aren't. Because who do you pay taxes to? To the sovereign power. Now, Ezra and Bayit Sheni made Trumot to Rabbanan. He said, even though we're not sovereign, we're going to give Trumah anyhow. With hope we come back to sovereignty. But that's why in Bayit Sheni it's only the Rabbanan. And then what happens with Shemitah, that's a whole different story. But that's why the Kedusha Rishonah is Mishum Yerusha, and therefore once there's no more Yerusha, there's no more chiyuv Trumot Masrot. How about nowadays when we're sovereign again? That's an awesome question. All the posts can talk about, but you need Rov of Am Yisrael. You need kibush and you need Rov Am Yisrael, and that's why a lot of people stay. So Rov Am, because if Rov Am Yisrael makes Aliyah, then we'll be chayiv in Trumot Masrot. It'll be really complicated. So people are moser nefesh and stay. Now, in this last line, in Tetzayin, "V'avrachem et brit Hashem elechem asher tzivatchem, v'alachtem v'avartem elim acherim, v'chav Hashem b'chem, v'abatem yerot tov Hashem natan lachem." Understand? That's going to be the end of that's the end of the speech. So what's he saying at the end of the speech? God kept, lo nafal, it's repeated twice, lo nafal davar echad b'kol davar tov hakol ba. And what's the book come and prove? God kept His promise. Everywhere you went, I was there to help you. Where you didn't go, I didn't help you. And now you can continue that. And in light of that, now the whole book, I think, makes sense. And why it's written. And that's an introduction to Navi in general, because you always have to ask, what's the prophetic purpose of the book? And now, I can learn history from the book. Like, I can learn Jewish history in medieval times by reading Responsa. When you go to college and become a Jewish history major, no one wrote Jewish history in the 13th century. How do I learn Jewish history? I read Responsa. What happens this event. But I can learn history backwards by reading Responsa. So I can learn Jewish history by reading Sefer Yehoshua, but Yehoshua wasn't written to teach me history. It was written to teach me that God kept His promise. And it's a book written for that generation that has meaning for all generations. And therefore it's part of Tanakh. And therefore that's why I want to use this introduction. That's how, in my opinion, you have to read Navi. And once you understand that, it makes the books make sense, and it solves all the problem of criticism. Because it's clear, now it's all, the whole book makes sense now. It's not contradicting itself. Because what we didn't take is exactly what God says. I'll only help you where you help. And therefore He's yelling at them, you didn't do your side. And now the whole book fits together. Okay, so we have to finish here. But thank everyone so much. And that's our introduction. You can keep listening now to Jesse doing Yehoshua.